Antebellum is a film that will be polarizing for whoever watches it. The story represents how some racist ideologies of the past are still present and how some of these ideologies are still practiced. It tackles not only our history of the slave trade, but also the argument that some people hang on to with the Confederacy, with it being their heritage, and how that lingering graft stems into a racist culture and mindset. The film gracefully balances way through these messages and subtle moments of white privilege to show the contrast of how the African American community is still being oppressed today, and how they are treated differently and less than white people in some circumstances. It uses these moments really well, so while the overall message isn't blatant, there is subtle moments throughout the film that makes you feel as off-put as the main character. I wanted to try to word this review carefully because this is a very volatile topic to talk about. It seems most people have a very strong lean to one side or the other, especially now in today's age, which is why I think this film is very important. There's a certain time in history where a film is a product of that time. It helps encapsulate what's going on in that time and what the issues were during that period. Antebellum does a great job of not only telling a story of morality in today's age, but also a story of how those morals haven't really changed over history, even as society has moved on without it. It blends past and present really well, and the film opens with a quote, "The past is never really dead, it's not even past." And that echoes throughout the film, using horror and some truly horrific moments in an almost absurd way to convey these messages. I feel like this is a film that the less you know going into it, the better off you'll be, because there are some twists and turns that are really effective. Janelle Monae plays the lead, Veronica, and it's her first lead, and she was pretty terrific. Honestly, I wouldn't mind seeing her in a lot more films. Jena Malone also shows up and gives a really good performance as well as kind of the villain. This is also the directorial debuts of Gerard and Christopher Renz, and this is a pretty strong debut. Visually, the film looks stunning for the most part. There are some really striking scenes with great shot composition. One thing that did annoy me though, that they did a day to night scene, which is where you shoot a scene during the day and then color correct it to look like night. It never looks good and it's always distracting for me. I don't get why you don't just shoot in that time frame that you're going for, because in this movie it's going for like dawn style look, so why not just shoot in that golden time? Why do the color correction? It always looks bad. The film's pacing is really great for the first and third act, but I do feel like the second act is a bit slow. It's weird because the second act almost feels like it should be the first act of the film, so watching it after the first act, it really feels like it breaks up the pacing and is kind of awkward, but it's also important for the second act to be the second act with how the story is constructed and goes. It just kind of drags a little bit in the middle because you kind of have these two solid bookends and then this middle piece that, like I said, feels like a beginning of a film. Overall though, I really loved Antebellum. It's a film that I really knew nothing about going into it. I had heard about it, but I didn't really know if like people were liking it. I didn't really know what the film was about. I just knew it was a film that was coming out at some point. And so when I saw it at Walmart and I read the back of it and went off the box art, I decided to give it a shot because it seemed interesting. For me personally, I thought it worked really well, not only being an entertaining horror flick, but also one that serves an important message of the time we're living in, but also one that will transcend the time it's in.